All right, ladies and gentlemen, and of course we discussed briefly with Gary Kasparov the possibility of the Russian airliner being taken down by terrorism, and of course now the news is that U.S. intelligence believes that it was a bomb planted by ISIS or an ISIS affiliate on that plane that most likely took it down over the Sinai. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel, Brad Hirschfield. He, of course, is author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, and President of CLAL, and Adam Thompson, senior partner and owner of the law offices of Adam Thompson, and syndicated talk show host. Okay, so, Brad, I mean, I won't say it doesn't come as a big surprise. ISIS claimed responsibility at the beginning, as you might expect them to do, even if they had nothing to do with it. But this has to be very troubling for everyone involved. And, you know, Britain has canceled all their flights out of Sharm el-Sheikh. They fly 6 of them, I think, in and out a day. This is pretty huge.
It's very big, and you're right, Steve. There's nothing surprising about it. That's part of the tragedy here. ISIS will stop at nothing. These are the people who behead at the drop of a hat. These are the people who rape systematically. The idea that they bombed this plane is completely reasonable. And by reasonable, I don't mean defensible. I mean this is how they operate. If there is any takeaway here, is that people have to stop pretending about who and what ISIS is.
Well, you know, Adam, I don't know. There's one school of thought I heard thrown around today was, as tragic and horrific as it was, the positive that will come out of it is that Putin will now spare not an ounce of expense or blood or sweat or anything with annihilating ISIS as best he can. This will be the motivator. What's your take on that?
Well, you know, Steve, this is huge, and I want to point out something. First of all, it's no surprise that ISIS did this. They take on whomever they consider to be enemies, and now that Russia was getting involved in Syria and supporting the president there, that's against their interests because they want to take over Syria. So this is sending a message to Russia. But the bigger picture here, as terrible as this is, I think Russia will, if it's proven that they did this, will take a very strong and swift response. So strong and swift, it'll send such a message to ISIS, it'll have them barreling over. And then that message to the rest of that area and the rest of the world is, hey, America's not leading in the battle against ISIS. It's Russia. Because look how Putin and that Russian leadership handled this. And then they will get more say in the area over the United States. And that's a disaster for us.
And of course, it just shows the danger that we're at here as well. Now, thank God there hasn't been a case of an American airliner, being subjected to this kind of terrorism in quite a while. But, you know, Brad, there was a story out just the other day about TSA. Yeah. And there are not only cracks, there are gaping holes in our TSA.
Well, you're right. Look, I don't want to throw a blanket indictment against the whole TSA. A lot of good people doing good work. Yeah. But I do think that we are going to have to move from how we've operated in this country since 9/11, which is mostly fear-driven and episodic. We have bursts of intense panic, and then we try and go do something, and then it kind of fizzles out. And move to a model much more like the one from the years I've lived in Israel that isn't panic at all, but it's absolute vigilance 24/7. And that means realigning priorities about how we secure places, the personnel we hire to secure those places, the procedures that we engage in to secure those places. Right. So I want to be clear, there should be no fear because this is the United States. Oh. But there has to be a level of vigilance and toughness that we have not begun to use.
And Adam, as an attorney, you know what this means. I mean, this means, people having to be inconvenienced again, and maybe more so. And so enough with this. Now you can bring cell phones on the plane. Now you can bring this on the plane. Now you can bring knives on the plane if they're this small. Enough of that nonsense, I believe.
Listen, we're to the point where, as Brad just indicated, I think the Israeli model with El Al is the model we should be following.
Yeah, but how do you interview one-on-one every single passenger? Have a psychological sit-down interview. I don't think it's feasible at all.
Well, it doesn't have to get to the point of being an interview, but adopt their model and put as much as that model in place here, because it will prevent tragedy. Instead of making it, like Brad said, something bad happens, we have an immediate, huge response, and then it always backs off. Get a model that's consistent, that we always use and always stay on top of this, and then it becomes part of our everyday life. We don't think about it twice.
All right, and until this news broke today, this afternoon, about the U.S. intelligence, with this belief that it was a bomb on board that brought down the plane, the Russian jet. The big story, in my view, and we talked about it with Michael Savage, was the elections yesterday. And to me, just showing once again, guys, and we'll get to this in segment number 2, that, you know, we are a conservative nation. Of course, it was a small amount of instances, but, you know, gay rights, protecting LGBT and transsexuals bit the dust in Houston. You had pot biting the dust in Ohio. You had a Republican governor elected in Kentucky. So we'll come back. We'll talk about all of that, plus the latest polls for the presidential race. Don't go away.
Houston's Proposition 1 bathroom ordinance. What does it mean to you? Any man at any time could enter a woman's bathroom simply by claiming to be a woman that day. No one is exempt. Even registered sex offenders could follow women or young girls into the bathroom, and if a business tried to stop them, they'd be fined. Protect women's privacy. Prevent danger. Vote no on the Proposition 1 bathroom ordinance. It goes too far.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Malzberg panel. Brad Hirschfield is here. Adam Thompson is here. So, in Houston, you had the LGBT, transgender, you know, Prop 1 that would have done that and done protected a whole bunch of class of people, voted down, Brad, by almost 2-1 in Houston. Well, let me go further too. We had also going by the wayside, legalizing pot in Ohio. You had the sanctuary city sheriff of San Francisco who defended that sanctuary city even after the tragic death of murder of that young girl by an illegal alien. He was ousted. And you had the new governor of Kentucky, first time in a long time, Republican, and a black Republican lieutenant governor, both Tea Party activists. So not a good day for liberals. That's probably why you've heard such a little downplaying of everything I just said in the mainstream media today.
So I think they're all four significant, Steve, but for very different reasons. The last one is probably the most significant in terms of conservative politics. Although even there, it's not clear it wasn't a throw the bums out kind of move, and you have someone who's never held elected office. The reason I do think it's important for conservative politics, while the Tea Party or his supporters may try and claim that their lieutenant governor as an African-American woman is that their policies are reflective of where the most black people are in this country. That's not true. But what I do think is important is that the often hurled insult that to be a conservative, to be a Tea Party conservative is somehow inherently racist is patently false. And this lieutenant governor, who has a remarkable story of coming from poverty, pulling herself up by her own bootstraps, getting a college degree, serving in the Air Force, retiring as a captain. I mean, it's a really powerful story. It's an inspired story. Yeah. But I think each of these has different reasons, not all of which are about conservative politics. I mean, let's be clear.
Well, which one isn't?
Well, the one, San Francisco is still a rabidly liberal city.
And
the reason they threw that guy
stood up there and said, I love sanctuary cities.
I wish they had thrown him out because of his support of sanctuary cities.
What was it then?
It was mismanagement.
Oh, come on.
It was, Steve, we have to be clear.
There was one issue in this campaign, Brad, and that was the dead girl, and this man coming out the day after and saying, we love our sanctuary cities.
I wish you are right. It turns out that's not what San Franciscans are saying. Right. By the way, it's not that I think they reached the right conclusion, but here's the thing. If you really want to advance conservative causes, you got to know who your opposition is.
Brad,
and that's not why he went down.
Adam, I think that it's obvious when this was all that was talked about in the media, and this guy came out on one side of it. You know, this woman hardly even ran, according to Michael Savage, any campaign ads and did any campaigning at all, and he still got she still got 60% of the vote.
Yeah, it was a disaster for him. He was on the wrong side of the argument, the wrong side of the law, and I think the voting clearly showed that the general public feels that way. I think the biggest of all these stories you're talking about, I'm not surprised with the vote in Houston, because Texas is very conservative, so no surprises there. The big thing that everyone should be looking at is the outcome of the election.
By the way, Houston,
where I am.
Wait, Adam, Houston has a lesbian mayor. They're a big city. There's a lot of minorities in that city. Go ahead.
Yeah, but Texas as a whole is an overall.
But it wasn't Texas as a whole. It was Houston. Go ahead.
But I'm in Kentucky right now. The last several governors, it's usually Democratic. That's the way they vote. The last several governors were Democratic. So to have a Republican now get in, you got to remember, he wasn't a by-the-books Republican. He's running on the same platform as Donald Trump and Ben Carson. Right. No political affiliations. The Republicans turned their back on him before. He said, I'm an outsider, I'm a businessman, I'm sick of how things are. And this really should make people think, because who's winning in the polls for the Republicans? Trump and Carson. And look who won in Kentucky. Outsiders. So that's really the message. People are sick and tired of politics as usual, Brad, and they want to see people from the outside.
And let's combine this. Let's combine this with the latest Quinnipiac poll, very briefly, Brad, where Carson beats Hillary significantly by 10 points nationally. Rubio beats Hillary by less than 10, and Trump loses by like 3, which is statistically a dead heat. This isn't good news for Hillary.
No, look, the only person who has a shot at losing, I don't want to say it that way because maybe I'm jinxing things, the only one who has a shot at losing to Hillary. No, it doesn't work that way for me. I want to see what's good for the country, and I think what's interesting here is that the country wants a president in whom we can believe. And the bottom line is that most people, even if they agree with Hillary, the first word that comes to mind when they ask about her is dishonest and not trustworthy.
Adam, final word,
no
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
No credibility. People are sick of Hillary and lying. People want someone who they find credible with character and integrity.
And justice for all. It sounded like the pledge. I couldn't help it. All right, Adam and Brad, thank you both very much. What a treat. When we come back, actor and Golden Globe winner Ron Perlman will be here with me in studio. Maybe we'll throw some politics in with him as well. You never know. Don't go away.